Yo, what's up guys? It's the new sensation, Big O Notation here, and today I'm going to be bringing you the next game in my best of 3 match, playing Janemba against Xeno. So this is game 2 of the best of 3 match. For those that didn't catch the last video, I'll have a link in the description if you want to watch game 1. But for those who have watched it and are now watching game 2, as you'll know, I won the last game, and so we'll be hopping straight into game 2 of the match. Just like in the last video, shout out to Rising Phoenix Odyssey for hosting the tournament. Definitely check out his channel, he's got some really good Dragon Ball Super content. And shout out to my opponent. I actually remembered the name of the channel, it's Namekian Witness Protection, I think. Or Namekian Witness Program. I think it's Namekian Witness Protection. So definitely check them out as well. They're an Australian YouTube channel that also do Dragon Ball Super content. And he was really nice to play against. He was a really good guy and a really chill opponent, so I definitely recommend you checking out his channel. He definitely knew what he was doing with the Xeno deck. And we'll just get straight into the gameplay. So this is going to be game 2 of the match, and we're both shuffling up our decks. I've got this on double playback speed again, like the last video, because as you can see by the video length, if you can see here, it's 2 hours long because it's a mill versus mill deck, or a mill versus mill matchup, so it's gonna go quite long because it's just gonna be who can mill each other out first. But going into the second game, I was thinking I'd probably go with a similar game plan as the first game. I don't think either of us brought a side deck, so we ended up just not using any side decks because I hadn't prepared a side deck for Janemba. I kind of went into the tournament a little bit blind and just decided to bring decks and kind of forgot about side decks. Hopefully I'll try and remember to make some side decks for the future rounds, but neither of us sided and we just went straight into game 2, where I was thinking I want to be using a similar game plan to last game, and I want to be trying to take out his unison as early as possible, because that's going to be stopping him from milling out so quickly, because it puts like 3 cards from his drop area back into his deck every turn. I mentioned in the last video, but apologies for this gameplay now being a bit smaller because somebody else has joined the Discord channel. I have actually managed to set up some like proper webcam scenes now after these games. So in the future, if we play some more webcam games, either in this tournament or outside of the tournament, maybe I'll play some on stream when I get my new PC sorted. There'll be like actual proper webcam setup, so it'll be a lot easier viewing for you guys rather than just taking a simple recording of the Discord channel as I have done here. So apologies for people coming in during the games and like checking out and seeing what's going on, because I know it makes the gameplay a little bit smaller and it's kind of annoying. But for the future games, it will be a lot more cleaner. It will be a lot nicer to look at. So if you saw earlier, he's been searching with the ultimate whirlwind spin a couple of times, and that's been milling both me and him once every time because of his leader frontside effect. And he's been using the discard effect of whirlwind spin to load up his drop area, which lets him awaken on turn 2, which he's done here. And it also lets him dig through his deck for some of his shadow dragons off of the scry effect of the shadow dragons when they're discarded. So he's been utilizing that. Luckily for me, he hasn't seen a copy of his unison yet, which is really good for me, and I actually managed to mill one of his unisons on my first swing there on turn 1. And he also hasn't seen any, I don't think he saw the 1-drop haze to play out some of his 3-drops, and as you can see there, I managed to hit another copy of his unison there, so that was really lucky for me. He's only got 2 unisons left I have to worry about, so I know that he's probably going to struggle to find his unison, which is perfect for me. Because in this matchup, the unison is the main thing that I need to worry about, because as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be preventing his deck from being milled out, because it puts back 3 extra cards from his drop area every single turn, so it can soften the blow of my leader swings every time. Here he drops his 1-drop haze, and he manages to find the extra card / unison card searcher. So he searches top 7, and he just grabs another copy of the extra card that searches. and that's because presumably he didn't see a copy of his Toa Unison there, and so he wants to grab another copy of that card to then further dig through his deck for his Unison. And then he just passes turn. This telegraphs to me that he probably doesn't have the 3-drop Haze in his hand, because then he'd be looking to drop it and maybe swing with some crit swings and establish a blocker down. So here I'm just doing classic Janemba things, swinging and passing. I've managed to charge a multicolor Bojack this turn, which is nice for me because it gives me some multicolor energy, and it means that my Bojack check land is going to be live for next turn, which is the main reason I charged it. But I would have preferred to have seen Bojack the Evildoer, because it again makes my Bojack check land live, but it also means that Galactic Buster is live, which means I can play some Evildoers from the energy. So here my opponent just using that search card again to try and find his Unison, and he again whiffs, which is so good for me. But he grabs it back with the Naturon Shenron, and he's just swinging into my leader with his leader. He's swinging for 20k when he swings with his leader, so I'm just definitely going to be taking it. And here he manages to get down a Dark Power Black Marseille, which is really annoying for me actually, because although it doesn't hit very many of my cards inherently, the fact that he can swing and start taking his life is actually going to be really frustrating for me, because I'm playing a mill deck. I'm kind of trying to stall him out, and so him having access to his life where he normally wouldn't is actually really annoying for me. And here I was gonna swing at his Marseillan, and so he just drops a Power Burst to try and keep it alive, and that's meaning he can take even more of his life down, which is really annoying. I was hoping that maybe he'd have like 2 copies of his Unison stuck in his life and he wouldn't have access to them for the whole game. That would have been perfect, but sadly he's able to take his own life here with the Power Burst and with the Dark Power Black Marseille, and it's really, really frustrating. And here he drops his ultimate Dark Dragon Slaying Bullet on my Unison, and I just decide I'm just going to attack once more for the turn, because I don't want to lose the markers on my Unison. I think what I was planning to do this turn was Awaken and try and take out that Dark Power Black Marseille, but because of the bullet I'm only able to attack once more this turn, so I swing with my Unison, and he's just going to block that with his leader and take the 2 life, which again is really frustrating for me, but it does mean that he's now on 3 life rather than being on a higher life total, so I actually do have a chance to kill him through natural ways and just by going through his life here, which is actually an option in this Janemba deck because of the Bojack engine that I'm running, and because the Unison has double strike, and most of the time people aren't necessarily that worried about dying to Janemba because they don't expect it to happen. So oftentimes I have managed to catch some people by surprise and actually kill them with normal means in this deck, which is really, really good fun to do. But here he's managed to hit his Unison, and that's really annoying for me. I was hoping he'd go the entire game without it. I was kind of thinking that they were actually stuck in his life at this point because of how many times he'd whiffed off of those searches. But he's going to get his extra cards back into his deck now, which is quite frustrating for me. It means that unless I can get through that Unison within the next turn or 2, I'm not going to be able to mill him out, and I'm just going to have to go for the kill. But here he's getting really well set up, so he's got his crit blocker swinger down, which means I've got to get through another card if I want to get to his leader, and I have to get through that card if I want to go through to his Dark Power Black Marseille. And he started to opt not to take his Shadow Dragons from the Scry effect, which is another really annoying thing for me, because it means that I'm never going to be able to mill him out really. Here I think he's swinging at my leader, and he's just comboed up to 20k. I'm a little surprised at this because I think I would have thought he would have swung into my Unison, but I let it go through, and that means that I can then Awaken on swing, and then super combo to rest down his Dark Power Black Marseille, and then drop 2 of the Bojacks to make him mill 2 cards. This is just a really nice play because it means I can start clearing through some of his board, and trying to get through to his Unison here would be really, really good for me. And it also means that I'm just going to be able to mill him an extra 2 cards. But here he's got the extra card. That means I choose one of my battle cards with energy cost less than or equal to the number of cards in my drop area and send it to the warp. So obviously I'm going to have to warp one of my Bojacks. And then he Spirit Boosts in an Ultimate Dragon Tackle and triggers his super combo limit 1 in hand, which means that he sticks it under his Unison, replaces the marker and draws a card when he activates a Spirit Boost skill. And then the Ultimate Dragon Tackle is going to mill me 1 from the actual extra card and 1 from the leader. And because I don't want to take the markers off my Unison, I decide to warp my battle card and let him draw a card. That's especially good for me because obviously I want him to be drawing cards as a mill strategy. So that's the main reason that I chose to give him that effect. And here he's got quite a few cards left in deck. I think I counted about 17 there. I'm not sure. I missed how many were in my deck, but I think I've got less than he does at this point. So I know that I have to get through this Unison like this turn, otherwise he's definitely going to be ahead in the mill game. And if I can't get through his Unison this turn, I'm probably just going to have to go for his leader. You can probably make out I've started charging yellow energy because I started charging the Great Ape Son Goku's, the Saiyan Instincts, because that card is completely useless in this matchup. I don't want to be drawing cards. And the yellow energy is actually pretty nice for me at this point because it means I have a better access to my arrival plays with the 4-drop Bojack, and I have better access to like my Bojack negates and stuff because they're all yellow, or they require yellow energy to bring them in. Here he attempts to drop his Oceanus, and I Zamasu it back to his hand because I want to be clearing through his board this turn and trying to get to his Unison. So he still gets the negate on my Heroic Prospect swing, but I'm going to swing my Unison into his Unison, and I believe he blocked it with his leader. And the reason that I did that was because his Unison, when his leader blocks an attack, his Unison triggers and gives him a marker, which is annoying for me, yes, but it also mills him a card. So I'm hoping that I can still get through his Unison this turn, even without the double strike on my Unison swing, and then I can just try and focus on the mill game still. So here I super combo because I know that he's going to probably have to combo out of this attack because he doesn't want to have to go to 1 life. And I bring in my Arrival Bojack to force him to mill another card, and this is just trying to apply the pressure onto him. I could have potentially comboed off the Zamasu from my board to try and make him combo further, or I could have comboed some more cards from my hand. That could have been a good play, but I ended up not doing that in the end and just leaving it at 30k double because I thought that would take through some of his resources. And here he's forced a super combo, which is actually huge for me because it means he's drawing more cards from his deck, which means it's going to be easier for me to mill him out. And using his Haze in combination with the Ultimate Whirlwind Spin puts him at, I believe, 31k. And here I'm swinging Bojack into his Unison, and then I swing Zamasu into his Unison and combo off an Ape. And that takes me to 10k on 10k, which means I can get through his Unison, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve from this turn. Here I believe I drew a card from the Majin Buu Unison effect because I haven't used the +0 this turn yet, and I just passed to get the untap and pass to him because the main reason I want to be using the +0 from my Majin Buu Unison isn't to get the draw because I don't want to be drawing cards in this matchup, but I want to be getting the untap so that I can play more stuff during his turn and so that I can potentially block with my Unison. In hindsight, I think that I should have stopped using the +0 on that turn, and I shouldn't have used it that turn because I already have enough defenses in my hand to be able to survive any of his swings that he might be able to do. And so by drawing more cards from the Majin Buu Unison, I'm just making it easier for him to mill me out. So here he taps 2 for his Toa Unison, and I Zamasu it back to his hand because I kind of don't want him to have 2 markers on his Unison. I want to force him to have to pay more energy for that. And there he pays another 2 energy to play it in, so he's effectively tapped 4 for his Unison here, and he's only got 3 markers on it after using the +1 skill. It was a real shame for me that he saw his last Unison. I was kind of hoping it would be stuck in his life, but Luckily for him, he managed to see it. Theoretically, I could have maybe kept the Zamasu in my hand and held it for his potential Oceanus negate. But here I'm just thinking, if I can get through his Unison next turn and force him to have to pay energy so that he can't play extra cards on me this turn, I should be able to mill him out faster. Because he, as you saw when he counted his deck just now, he had about 8 cards left in deck, I believe. So very, very few. We're both sat on very small amounts of cards in our deck at the moment. And I have got a pretty massive board. My board is going to be really helpful for clearing out his Unison, but he's still got 2 energy open, so I still have to be careful of his Oceanus negate, and I know he has one because I bounced it back to his hand last turn. So here I'm using my leader swing first in case he has Oceanus, and he blocked with his leader, so that triggers his Unison auto and mills him another extra card. So I believe he's on like 6 cards in deck right now, or something like that. Very, very small amount. So he's blocking with his leader here, and he then Spirit Boosts in the Ultimate Dragon Tackle to force me to mill 2 cards, and I obviously opt to let him draw a card and warp one on my battle cards, because I want him to be drawing cards. I need to get through his deck very, very quickly. And I think at this point, in my hand I have an AOD Janemba, and I think I also have like one other card, maybe a Bojack Negate or something, but I think I'm really, really close to milling him out. I'm like 1 or 2 cards away from being able to mill him out at this point. I think I have a Bojack Negate or 2 Bojack Negates and an AOD Janemba in my hand at this point, so I'm thinking I'm really, really close to milling him out, and I just need him to draw like 1 more card so that I can win the game from deck out. But I'm just like thinking through my hand and trying to figure out if there's a way that I can actually mill him out this turn. And he's got the Sin Shenron SCR down, so I'm really scared of his double strike dual attack that could come down next turn. And he's also managed to rest my entire board, which makes it really tricky for me to actually get through his Unison this turn. So here he's got, I think, 3 cards left in deck, so he draws for turn, goes down to 2 cards, and I've got 3 energy open, so I know that I have my Bojack Negate in hand, which will mill him a card if he swings, and I'm on about 7 cards in deck, so I'm feeling pretty safe at this point. I don't think that he can mill me out at this point, and he's got 2 cards left in deck, so he's gonna have to basically kill me this turn. And my thought process is also, if he swings with either his leader, I think I was mistaken, I think he has 3 cards left in deck at this point. But I'm thinking, if he swings with his leader and draws a card, I can negate with my Bojack Negate to put him to 1 card left in deck. And that will mean that he can't use his Unison +1 that turn, because his Unison +1 draws him a card and then puts the cards back. So he would draw a card and go down to 0 and then lose the game before he could put the cards back, I think. So I'm thinking, if he swings with leader or draws a card and then swings in any way, I'm going to be able to negate with my Bojack Pirate's Pride and put him at 1 card in deck, which will mean that as long as I don't get milled out, I basically win the game at that point. So here he's tapped 1 for his Naturon, and this would have been a great time for me to have Zamasu, because bouncing that back to his hand and stopping him getting, or bouncing and stopping any of his plays this turn would have been really, really helpful. But he Spirit Boosts in the Ultimate Dragon Tackle, which mills me 2, which is really scary because I'm suddenly on like 5 or 4 cards left in deck, and he might actually be able to deck me out. But he draws a card from that as well, which is great. And then he taps 4 for his Sin Shenron 4-drop. And what I didn't realize at this point was that the Sin Shenron 4-drop actually mills a card when it activates Spirit Boost. So here he swings with his 4-drop, and I tap 1 for the Pirate's Pride, which puts him at 1 card in deck, which is what I was just talking about. Now he can't use his Unison +1, so he has to be really, really careful of that. But here he's Spirit Boosting with his 4-drop, and that's going to mill me another 2 cards. So that puts me on, I think, 2 cards or 3 cards left in deck. Really, really small amount. and he's got 2 energy open, so if he has 2 extra cards that cost 1 energy, yeah, I've got 3 cards left in deck. If he's got 2 1-drops, he actually manages to win the game here. Here he ultimate whirlwind spins for no target, and then obviously uses his negative energy explosion for no target as well, and that is actually game, because I've got 1 card left in deck, and if I draw it then I lose, and so he can just pass turn. And as you can see in my hand there, I also had another Bojack Pirate's Pride, so if he'd swung once more with any of his cards, I would have actually been able to negate that, play my Pirate's Pride, and mill him out the last card in his deck. So that was a really close game. Just like the last one, it came down to, I think the last one may have come down to 1 card left in deck as well. But really close, just like the last game. Shout out to my opponent. Again, I'll have his channel in the description, as well as the first game from this best of 3 match. And thank you guys very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the gameplay. It was another great game, Mill versus Mill. I'm a massive Mill fan, so I really enjoyed this best of 3 match. But definitely stay tuned for future videos if you're interested to see how this match ends. Definitely hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for the next video, because one of the next videos that I'll be releasing pretty soon will be game 3 of this match, once I've commentated over that one as well. But I'll be releasing that soon, so if you're interested, definitely stay tuned for that. And I've got deck profiles of my Janemba list if you want to check that out, as well as my Sin Shenron list if you want to check that out too, if you're a massive Sin Shenron Xeno fan like I am. But stay tuned for all of that, check out all of those videos if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one.